Good morning, monsters. It is Wednesday today. And I've got a pretty busy day today and a really busy day tomorrow. So I wanted to make sure that I got you a chapter today, because the next time I'll probably be able to send one after this is the weekend. But you guys might be a bit behind anyway. So anyway, I hope you're well. The last chapter we had, the children had to stay away because I think Mum and Dad were struggling a little bit. And Moonface and Silky sent them an invitation saying there is a new land at the top of the magic faraway tree called the Land of Take What You Want, which the children were pretty excited about. So let's see if they go to that land, shall we? This is chapter 18, the Land of Take What You Want. The next day was very fine. The children helped their mother to clean the whole house, and Joe proudly brought in some fine green beans and lettuces from the garden, which he had grown himself. Mother was very pleased. "You can go off and play after lunch if you like," she said. "You've been very good today." The children looked at each other with great excitement, just what they had hoped for. "Come on," said Joe after lunch. "We won't waste any time." "What about something to drink?" said Beth. "Shouldn't we take some lemonade with us?" "I should think we can get lemonade right at the Land of Take What You Want," said Joe with a grin. So off they all ran, waving to Mother as they went. They were soon in the enchanted wood, hearing the trees whispering silently to one another, "Wisha-washa, wisha-washa, wisha-washa." They ran through the bushes and the trees to the faraway tree, and up they went. When they passed the window of the angry pixie, Joe peeped in just for fun, but he was very sorry he did, for the angry pixie was there, and he threw a bowl of cold soup all over poor Joe. "Oh," Joe said in dismay as he saw his shirt all splashed with soup, "you wicked pixie." The angry pixie went off in peals of delighted laughter and banged his window shut. "Ugh, you smell like onions now, Joe," said Beth, wrinkling up her nose. "I hope the smell soon wears off." Joe wiped himself down with a handkerchief and said to himself that one day he would pay that angry pixie back. "Come on," said Franny impatiently. We'll never get there." They passed the barn owl's door and saw him sitting inside, fast asleep. They came to Silky's little yellow door, but she wasn't in. There was a note pinned on her door which said, "Out, back soon." "Well, but yawny today again." She must be with Moonface. Now just look out for Dame Washalot's water, everybody." It was a good thing he reminded them, for not long after, a fine waterfall of soapy suds came pouring down. Franny screamed and dodged, and so did Beth, but Joe got some on his shirt, and he was very, very cross. Poor old Joe, he's got soup on his shirt, on his top, and then he's got Dame Washalot's dirty washing water. Gross. "Never mind," said Franny with a giggle. "It'll wash off some of the onion soup, Joe." And they went up. And they came up to Mr. What's-his-name's house. He, as usual, was sitting in a deck chair, fast asleep, with his mouth wide open. And beside him, also fast asleep, was the old saucepan man, looking most uncomfortable, draped around as usual with saucepans and kettles. "Don't wake them," whispered Joe. "We'd better not talk." So they crept by them really, really quietly. But just as they got to the next branch, Saucepan Man woke up. He sniffed hard and jabbed Mr. What's-his-name. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" said his friend. "Can you smell onions?" asked Saucepan Man. "I distinctly smell them. Do you suppose the faraway tree is growing onions anywhere near us today? I love onion soup." Joe and the girls laughed until they cried. "It's the onion soup on your shirt that the Saucepan Man smelt. My goodness, they'll spend all afternoon looking for onions growing on the faraway tree." They left the two funny old men and went climbing up, and they got nicely caught by Dame Washalot's second lot of water. She was doing a great deal of washing that day, and she emptied the big wash tub down just as the three children were nearly underneath it. The water came pouring down and soaked the children. They gasped and shook themselves like dogs. "Quick! We'll go as fast as we can to Moonface's house and borrow some towels from him. This is dreadful." There is a picture here of Dame Washalot wetting the children. How cool is that? They arrived at Moonface's at last. Old Moonface and Silky rushed out to hug them, but when they saw how dripping wet the children were, they stopped and in surprise. "Is it raining?" Moonface said. "Have you had a bath in your clothes?" asked Silky. "No, it's Dame Washalot's water as usual," Joe said crossly. "We dodged the first lot, but didn't manage to dodge the second lot. Can you lend us some towels, please?" Moonface grinned and pulled some towels out of his curved cupboard. As the children rubbed themselves down, Moonface told them all about the land of Take What You Want. "It's a marvellous land," he said. "You're allowed to wander all over it and take what you want for yourselves without paying a penny. Everyone goes there if they can. Do come and visit with me and Silky." "Is it quite safe?" asked Joe, rubbing his hair dry. "Oh, yes," said Silky. The only thing is we must be careful not to stay there too long in case it leaves the faraway tree and we can't get down. But Moonface said he will sit by the ladder and give me a loud whistle if he sees any sign of the land moving away." "Well, that's good," said Joe. "There are plenty of things we want, so let's go now, shall we?" They all climbed up to the topmost branch to the great white cloud. The ladder led through the hole as usual to the land above. One by one they climbed it and stood in the strange country above the magic cloud. It was indeed strange. It was simply crowded with things and with people. It was quite difficult to move about. Animals and all kinds wandered here and there. Sacks of all sorts of things, from gold to potatoes, stood about. Stalls of the most wonderful vegetables and fruits were everywhere, and even such things as chairs and tables were found to be waiting for anyone to take them. "Good gracious," said Joe. "Can we really take anything we want?" "Anything," said Moonface, settling himself down by the ladder in the cloud. "Look at those gnomes over there. They mean to take all the gold they can find." The children looked to where Moonface was pointing. Sure enough, there were 4 gnomes, hauling at all the sacks of gold in sight. One by one they staggered off to the ladder with them and disappeared down the faraway tree. The other fairy folk hunted for different things. They wanted dresses, coats, shoes, singing birds, pictures, all kinds of things. And soon they had found what they were looking for. As soon as they had found what they were looking for, they rushed off to the ladder in glee and slipped down it. Moonface found it fun to watch them. The others wandered off, looking at everything in surprise. "Do you want a nice fat lion, Joe?" asked Silky as a large lion wandered by and licked Silky's hand. "No, thank you," said Joe. "Well, what about a giraffe?" said Silky. "I believe they make very fine pets." "You believe wrong then," said Beth. As a tall giraffe galloped past like a giant rocking horse. Nobody in their senses would want to keep a giraffe as a pet. I have to say I agree with Beth on that one. "Oh, look," cried Franny as she came to a shop in which stood a great many large, beautiful clocks. "Do let's take a clock back home." "No, thank you," said Joe. "We don't want to know what... we know what we want and we'll take that and nothing else." "I think I should like a clock," said Silky, and she picked a small clock with a very nice smiley face. It had 2 feet underneath, which wriggled hard as Silky picked up the clock. "It wants to walk," said Beth, with a scream of laughter. "Oh, let it walk, Silky. I've never seen a clock walking before." Silky put the clock down and it trotted beside them on its big flat feet. The children thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen, and Silky was very pleased with her new clock. It was that kind that chimed every hour on the hour, and sometimes in between too. It had to be wound up with a key every night to keep ticking. "That's just what I've always wanted," she said. I shall keep it back in my room." "You don't suppose it'll stay there, do you, Silky?" asked Beth. "It'll wander round and poke its nose in everything you're doing, and if it doesn't like you, it'll run away." "Ding dong," said the clock suddenly in a clear voice, making them all jump. It stopped walking when it chimed, but it ran after the children and Silky once again. It was really the most extraordinary clock. "Now we really must look for what we want," said Joe. Are those hens over there, Beth?" Yes, they are, said Beth. Good. Come along and we'll get them. Oh, this is a really lovely land. I'm very glad we came. What fun it will be to get everything we want. I do wonder what Mother will say when we get home with some hens. And that is the end of the chapter. That's chapter 18. And if you want, if you're looking for an art project to do, maybe you could draw the shop with all the clocks in it and make all the clocks different, or just draw what would be your favorite kind of clock to have. All right, guys, I will speak to you soon, hopefully, and I'll try and send another chapter on the weekend. And I hope you guys are well and that you're behaving yourselves, right? Kira, Michaela, Michael, Matthew, even. Yeah, have a good time, and I'll probably speak to you over Easter. Love you guys.